We are joined today by an extremely special guest. To know him is to love him, Mr. Adam Malin. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Hey, everybody.
Yes. We have got to give a little introduction, not just Mr. Adam Malin, but co-creator of one of the greatest conventions of all time, if not the Creation Entertainment, which all of us love to go to every year. Happens to fall on my birthday, usually on or about. So it's something that I look forward to especially. Adam, how are you?
Like everybody else, good. I'm feeling very blessed to have physically weathered the COVID, and all my loved ones, my friends, my family, we've all pretty well much gone unscathed, notwithstanding the impact that it had on the business. Personally, we've managed to pull through pretty good. As you guys know, living in California, we've had some extra challenges here. The state is just constantly between fire and smog and all the weather aberrations of the last few years. The state is challenged pretty heavily in a lot of ways, and we're just coming off of a week, right, where the sky was orange for a week. And you couldn't go outside because the air was filled with ash and all things you take for granted, like even going outdoors at all. You can't take these things for granted anymore. It's just been such a crazy time just physically planet.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you can't even see the sun. Sometimes it's a little orange ball, and sometimes it's just not even there. It's just total cloud cover.
I live right up against the Angeles Forest. I purposely kind of live in a semi-rural location. And even up there, I'm up at about 1,500 feet. It's still, the effect of the wildfires has just left the sun, like you say, and sort of an orange shadow in the sky. And everywhere you look, I mean, it's just smoke and haze. So it's been unfortunate. It's gotten better in the last couple of days, I guess. But I think the wildfire season is just ramping up, frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
Peaks in October. By the way, check this out.
Nice. Well, that's amazing. We had some fun times with Starlog and Fangoria magazines for sure. We did 25 years of Fangoria events, and we did several wonderful Starlog events, including that 10th anniversary of Star Wars, which we were just talking about the other day. Yeah, it was crazy because I guess Kerry O'Quinn knew George Lucas. And I knew Gene Roddenberry, and I said, should get Roddenberry and Lucas together on stage. How great would that be? And we're actually able to do it. We were actually able to get Gene to come down. It was at the Westin Hotel at LAX Airport. And the hotel had just opened up, which would give you some idea. I'm trying to think. This was '89. The years all blend together, but. But Gene did come down. He met George Lucas on stage, and it was a pretty thrilling moment. They're sort of twin titans, Star Trek and Star Wars, mean so much to all of us and have for decades and decades. They're both wonderful legacy properties. So that was a fun moment.
That sounds like nerd heaven right there. I would have loved to have been there for that moment. But I do, everybody knows your brand. Everybody knows the product that you put out there. But I don't know how many people really know about you as, the person and what got you involved with this whole world.
Well, I think you can chalk it up to a few things. First of all, you can chalk it up to amazing parents that were into the arts. My mom was a remarkable woman. She was a radio journalist in the 40s. She was a Madison Avenue advertising copywriter in the 50s, in an era where women were not allowed to be in that business. And then she went on to be an educator in the public New York public school system for 26 years. And I was, as a young man, obsessed with sci-fi and comic books. Famous Monsters of Filmland and Marvel Comics, Fantastic Four. And I consumed comic books voraciously. And my mom, contrary to virtually all the other parents in the neighborhood, encouraged me to read them. And I said, Mom, why are you always so positive about me reading comic books when all the other mothers throw their kids' comics away? And I'll never forget, my mom said to me, you know what? Anything that you read will be a gateway to you consuming, and reading more. You'll go on to read great literature and great things because of your love for reading. And she admired that. She admired the graphic story medium. She thought it was fantastic. And she loved the work of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby like I did. And I was obsessed with Lee and Kirby. Every Wednesday, I would go over to Sweets and Treats in Fresh Meadows on Long Island, and the comic books would have just arrived. They're still together, bound in a wire. And the owner of the store knew that I would come. He'd hand me the clippers, and I would break open this mass of comic books and immediately pull out the comics. Because if you waited a day or two after the comics were delivered, sometimes the titles that you wanted were gone. There's no way I was going to miss the latest issue of Fantastic Four. No way. So I would grab the comic books that I wanted, and they just fired up my imagination. The Silver Surfer, Galactus, and Spider-Man, the X-Men. I mean, the Fantastic Four. So great. And I saw an ad in a Marvel comic book for something called the Rocket Blast Comic Collector. It was a fan magazine. It was sort of like a marketplace. And I ordered it, I got it. It was a fanzine. It's called a fanzine. And in it, I saw an ad for, lo and behold, a comic book convention in New York City, Phil Souling's comic book convention. And I asked my parents, and it was another era. They would let me take the train into New York City myself from Long Island at the age of 8. I know that seems completely alien and it might seem irresponsible now, but
different time.
55 years ago, it was cool to do it. And they empowered me in that way. And I went to that convention in 1969, and I was finally exposed to fandom. And what it is to be a fan is to be a part of a community. And the thing about Star Trek that I'm going to get to is I've always thought it as the most inclusive community. And there's a lot of things in this world that are not inclusive. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, Sirach, because, as a Black brother, you have gone through a lot as a Black man. And it's been a lot of shameful stuff in this country and around the world. And one of the things about Star Trek that inspires me is that Gene's vision of infinite diversity and infinite combinations meant everybody was included. Myself as a Jew, I felt plenty of alienation and hatred in my life, particularly when I was younger. There were a lot of people that didn't like me because I was Jewish. And so I know a thing about that, and I just think that Star Trek is such an amazing, inclusive community. The way it embraced the LGBTQ groups before practically anybody was accepting them is typical of how inclusive a community it is. But back in those days, when I discovered that convention in '69, I was already like a fan, like a super fan. And I was so excited. 2001 had come out the previous year and blew my mind. That was a vision of what filmed science fiction could be. I loved Star Trek. That was on in '66. I loved the original Outer Limits, Forbidden Planet from the '50s. So I was already a sci-fi and comic book fan. But I think 2001 really changed my life. It was such an amazing cinematic vision of film sci-fi. Kubrick was such a genius. And then after that convention in '69, I went to my parents and I said, "This is amazing. I want to be a part of it." And they said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, I want to run my own comic book and sci-fi convention.
Wow. So you knew from way back then.
So I guess I was 13. I'm born in 56. I'm 64 now. So we ruminated, my parents and I ruminated about it for a year or so. There was another show in 1970 that Phil did that I went to. And right around that time, my dad, who worked in Manhattan on 34th Street, said, well, you know, son, down the block from me is a hotel called the New Yorker Hotel. And they've got meeting space, and you know, we can go to that hotel and maybe you can talk to them about running running your show there. Wow. So my dad and I went to the New Yorker Hotel, and I was, 12 or 13, and walked in there, and the sales executive there for their meeting space, I still remember him, Ralph Burkowski. He's a very nice gentleman, and he took me seriously. He said, as long as your dad is willing to co-sign the contract for the show, you can run a comic book convention at our hotel. And it was amazing. And the meeting space was $1,000 for the weekend. And I had the money from a paper route that I had been doing for 3 years. I delivered newspapers on Long Island. I had the money, paid it up front, and my buddy Gary Berman, who lived 4 doors down from me in a duplex of connected homes in Flushing, in New York, in Fresh Meadows. He and I had been talking about it, and so you know, my dad and I signed the contract. Said we're doing it. So Gary's like, okay. So we did it. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we loved comic books. And the incredible thing for me was that this guy whose work I love, Jim Steranko, he did Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the original Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And he agreed to come to the show as our special guest. And having this guy come to my show was so thrilling. I got to meet him, and you know, I've been just like idolized this guy. And so that was it. The event was a success. And then Gary and I decided, all right, you know what? Every Thanksgiving weekend, we're going to run a show in Manhattan. So we started doing that. Meanwhile, we were going to school. He went off to college, and then a year after him, I went off to college. I was in college from 74 to 78. I was pre-med and completely crashed and burned at that. But my minor, which ended up being my major, was music, and I ended up getting a fine arts degree in orchestral arrangement and piano composition. So I'll never regret that, because music has been one of the greatest passions of my life and has informed everything that I've done, you know, throughout my entire lifetime.
And you've sat in with the bands a couple times.
You'd be surprised all the music that I've done that the fans don't know anything about. But yeah, I've had multiple bands. I've written musicals. I've worked with some amazing musicians, and I have a very deep, rich musical legacy, which is an important part of my life. And it's sort of spined inside of creation's growth as well. Mm. And, so we started in 71. In 1979, we had our first Star Trek guest, which was Walter Koenig. I reminded Walter recently that he and I had been working together for 40 years. And it was a bit of a brain tease. But that's what started. I mean, I was always a Star Trek fiend. I love Star Trek. After we had Walter as a guest, we decided, you know, let's start to have the Star Trek people come to our shows. And we did. We started to have Star Trek people attend. There was Walter, then there was George, and then Nichelle, Jimmy, and then on to DeForest, and then Leonard and Bill. And before I knew it, we had the entire cast of Star Trek appearing as guests at our show. And there was so much interest in Star Trek as a fandom that we decided, let's start to run sort of Star Trek fan conventions. Excuse me. Just a second.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome. 1971, that means 2021, we're right around the corner from 50 years.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of our 50th anniversary. It's crazy. But there's no way I would have stayed in this business all this time if I didn't love it. I'm a big time fan, and I love the genre. I love science fiction, fantasy, horror, graphic story, and Star Trek is out front. Been a passion of mine all my life, and seeing what's happening with it now on television is just amazing. What Alex and the teams have done between the shows. I mean, Discovery is brilliant. Picard is brilliant. I'm so excited about the new shows. Lower Decks has just started. That's really great. I'm really also really happy for Rod Roddenberry and Trevor over at Roddenberry, because Gene was a great mentor of ours, and we love that man, and he was really took us under his wing, and to see his son now an important part of the Star Trek legacy and moving on as an executive producer of those shows makes me feel pretty proud and happy. I know Majel and Gene would be feeling really great right now if they could see Rod's progress. But I think one of the things that cemented our relationship with Star Trek was that Majel and Gene, particularly Gene, were so supportive of us. They knew that we loved Star Trek. They knew that we were competent at executing events. We were competent event planners, and he knew that Star Trek needed a place, a community location where the fans could all get together. I mean, Star Trek is all about community and inclusiveness. And so from when I met him until he passed away, every year, Gene would come down to our shows and would deliver what I called the valedictory address. At the end of the show, Gene would get up there and he would talk about the state of society and fans and what was happening in Star Trek. I remember when Next Generation was first coming out, and he was introducing the fans to all the characters. Majel came to one of our shows and brought Marina Sirtis, and it was just an amazing time. And so Gene's inspiration and love was part of the through line that really got us so involved in just kind of being a part of the Star Trek family and helping to build the franchise and bring a global fan community together. And we raised the stakes with the show in Vegas. Being in Vegas was, I think, partly originally a consequence of the fact that Star Trek: The Experience was there. That was an amazing attraction that they had built at the Las Vegas Hilton. And we had, I want to say, what was it, like an 8-year run there, or 9-year run until they closed the attraction. When they closed the attraction, it was an opportunity for us to move into even bigger space. And we discovered the Rio. Whatever you might think about the Rio Hotel, I know people have various opinions about it. There are some parts of it that are older and some parts of it that have been renovated. Mm-hmm. The Rio Convention Center, where we run our events, is great. It's great space. That is much newer space, and it really was a great venue for us for I think more than a decade. Right. I think we're coming up on 20 years. of these shows. The Rio Convention Center has been a worthy and righteous location for our tribal get-together, and we've all, grown a decade older at that venue together, and seen amazing things happen. We've seen the rise and falls of different Star Treks. We've seen comings and goings, and sadly, we've seen passings. And we've shared those things together, and it's been a privilege and a blessing to be a part of that community and to help to be part of bringing that community together. There's 100,000 stories from those shows, fans that grouped together, let's say, the Star Trek cheerleaders, or the Makos, or people that want to be Borgs, or the crazy Klingons. You got hundreds or thousands of fans that have been Klingons and, do the kaplahs and they're larger than life. And all these different fans and their cosplay and their hopes and their dreams and their loves, the convention becomes a crucible where all these amazing emotions and feelings of inclusion occur. And the world is such a sorry state in so many ways, and people have been so cruel in the world. And that's why it's so important for the Star Trek tribe to come together the way that we do. We're like the diaspora spread out around the world, but then when Vegas hits, we all gather together, and we're grateful for the chance for all of us to come together as one and celebrate. And there's a lot of reasons to celebrate and reasons to mourn and be sad as well, but mainly they've been blessings and a lot of gratitude for what we've shared together, and I hope what's still to come.
You've definitely brought a lot of joy and happiness into the fans' lives, and everybody we talk to, Ryan, will agree with me. It's like the thing that we anticipate every year. It's seeing your old friends. It's like a class reunion. It's seeing your old friends. It's relationships. It's marriages. There's so much love and friendship that's come out of your event every year. So I know that I'm grateful, and so many other fans are grateful.
Well, I know that this has been a very challenging year, and for the first time in 20 years, we had to postpone the event in August. That hit us all pretty hard. I actually postponed a whole year's worth of creation events, not just for Star Trek, but for all the different properties that we do. Pretty well much everything got pushed out. But we're hoping, I'm knocking on wood, it's still not a done deal as of the time of this airing, but we're all cautiously optimistic and hopeful that we'll gather together in December. One nice thing that came out of it was that we were able to get into the Caesars Forum, a brand new convention center that Caesars Entertainment built, and it's stunning. I love the Rio, but wait until you see this Caesars Forum space. It's unbelievable. And we've have so much physical space that we've been able to create a socially distanced theater configuration for the space. I think people are going to feel pretty comfortable there, where there are going to be very, very stringent standards with regards to people wearing masks. Get used to it, people, because everybody that's at that show will have to wear a mask. We're working out protocols for photo ops and autographs, and those are all evolving as we speak. I'm not going to really speak about those things specifically. I have a fantastic talent group who are focusing on all of those details of the talent throughput through the events and how they'll physically interact with our attendees. But I have great confidence that we'll execute that in as safe and professional manner as we possibly can. That is hoping that everything allows us to do so at that time, and mean, that's the hope. But it's an exciting show this year. There's a lot of stuff going on because of the virus. The production schedules for some of the shows have been pushed back. There's some question now about Discovery because they're going to start filming again next month, and we have to see whether or not the cast members that are series regulars who are on the show every week, whether or not they're going to be able to be released from production to come to the show, to come to our event. There are issues regarding quarantine and things of those natures. So that is all still kind of up in the air. People that are not series regulars, though, will be coming. It looks like Picard won't be filming until next year, but they don't know for sure, but that's what they're thinking. And so that will make it more of an opportunity to have as many of those cast people as we can. I know that Michelle and Issa have already confirmed. We may not have actually gone out and advertised that yet, but they have both confirmed. I'm hoping Sir Patrick will come, although I have no idea yet if he will. But you will have as many guests as we possibly can from both of those shows. We hope to have some of the voice actors and production and writing people from Lower Decks as we can as well. And we're going to maybe start to have some people from Strange New Worlds. You guys, for any of the fans who heard, there's a new Star Trek show in town called Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
From pilot to pickup, it's like 54 years, right? Or 56 years.
It's just an incredible thing. And we're talking with some of that cast about maybe coming. For those that don't know about that show, Anson Mount reprises his role as Captain Pike, and Ethan Peck returns as Spock, and Rebecca is number one, as I think you guys know.
Una.
And we're hoping we'll have some of them, if all works out, to talk about that at the show in December as well. So it's never been a better time to be a Star Trek fan. It's just, like I said, a renaissance of fantastic creative development of the canon, the various canons, and we hope to explore and celebrate as much of that new development as we can at the show in December, as well as bring back all of our beloved perennial celebrities and guests and talents from all the previous incarnations, including, of course, my man Sirach, who, the show would not be the same without, and who's pretty much been to almost every one of those shows over the last 10 or 15 years, I want to say, right?
Almost every one, yeah. Pretty much.
You and I have had some good times on stage together. In particular, we did a focus on a couple of episodes that were DS9 episodes that were really pretty important to me. Far Beyond the Stars was a groundbreaking episode. And The Visitor, I thought, was an incredible episode. And I know we've had a chance to gather some of those cast people together and talk about some of those shows. But
Yeah, I remember that actually. And you actually were the first person to bring Mark Zicree out onto the stage and give us a little background about how he developed the script and the idea, which we actually followed up on our Seventh Rule podcast. We got a chance to interview him and get more in depth about it. But that was really your inspiration, and I think it was just a fantastic idea. It was a great opportunity to talk about those episodes.
There are so many chestnuts, as I call them, so many golden special episodes from DS9, but also from each of the series, and newer fans would avail themselves deeply by going deep down into the canon and exploring each of the series, because I could certainly sit here and flip off names of episodes from each of the series, special episodes that you'll keep with you for a lifetime. And so there's a rich legacy to Star Trek, in addition to all the fantastic new content that is being spun off now and that we'll be seeing over the next few years. So it's just a great time to be a Star Trek fan. It really is.
Hey, Adam, I know you only have a couple minutes left here, but we've got so much more that we want to talk to you about. So hopefully you'll come back sometime, because
We'll have to do a part 2.
I definitely think so. This is going to be great. But one thing I did want to ask you is, you touched upon the fact that we had some losses this year, or over the last calendar year, I should say.
Yeah.
And, could you tell us a little bit about Aaron and Renee as people, or even as just the characters they played as you saw them?
Renee Auberjonois was a brilliant actor and a beloved friend. I know he and Nana did some wonderful work together for us on stage at our shows, some special theatrical performances. And Kira and Odo were such a pure, beautiful, loving relationship of those two characters. I always used to love to pair those two actors together because their chemistry is so unique. And Renee was an irascible, funny guy, pretty hysterical guy, actually. He's Chef Louis from Little Mermaid, and he's got that impish quality to him. He actually sang the chef's song for us in cabaret at our show at least a couple times. He was a thinking man's actor, a consummate professional, certainly in terms of the way that he conducted himself and appeared at our shows. An endless source of joy, totally professional in terms of always hitting his mark. I mean, a bit old school. I mean, he came from a certain acting pedigree that he considered very, very seriously. And, we had known that he was sick for some time, and he never allowed that to cloud the way. I mean, he was sick for several years, and he never allowed that to cloud the way that he acted with his friends, his family, and the fans. He's just a pure joy, and we miss him desperately. It's God's will, but it was an honor and a privilege to have Renee with us for all the years that he did. And you're never going to replace Constable Odo. As for our beloved Aaron, a guy who had such a deep heart and warmth. Sirach can tell you that it's just Nog and Jake, or Ram and Nog. I mean, he had, or Nog and Cisco. He had an ability to pair off with other actors and have compelling relationships with those characters in such a way that was so believable that you knew that he, as an actor, had connected viscerally with the actor that he was playing off of in such a great way. Aaron was such a talented guy, and such a sweet man to conventions, always giving so much of himself to the fans, and tirelessly, just so much fun. Certainly when we had him and Max getting into makeup and costume, doing Ram Nog on stage was a lot of fun. I'm going to miss that desperately. And just another one of those sad passages that we can't do anything about. But we can honor his memory and be grateful for the time that we had with Aaron, and we are grateful for that very much.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of my last memories of him is backstage behind the scene at your creation convention, and he was in his full outfit, and he had the makeup on, and he had the whole thing, and it was the first time I'd seen him in a long time like that, and he looked over at me and he said, "I'm getting too fat. I can barely zip this thing up in the back." He's like, "I got to cut back on the Starbucks," and it was such a classical moment.
Sirach, Sirach, give us one anecdote from the set of DS9, you and Aaron together. Just think of a golden moment that the two of you guys shared. It didn't have to be an acting moment; it could be a personal moment.
Adam's back at work all of a sudden.
Oh yeah,
yeah, moderate.
It's not work. Trust me, it's purely for my own edification. Thinking about those two, how much I enjoyed their characters on the show, and what a deep empathy that the two characters had for one another. Being, back on the set, the two of you guys together.
I remember so many moments, but one of the things we did a lot was rehearsing the scenes together, and at some point I probably got frustrated and say, what does it matter? And I remember Aaron's, explaining why it mattered to him to get it right and to portray this. He really meant a lot to him as an actor to be believable and to convey the sentiments that he wanted to convey. I think that was kind of one of the moments when I realized, oh, this means a lot to him. This is not just showing up and phoning it in. No, he wants to really make an impact with his performance.
That inspires you as an actor and a craftsperson as well.
It does. I mean, you can't help but be inspired by that. When you hear somebody, when it means so much, and I was also being inspired by Avery, whom Captain Sisko meant so much to him. And it meant so much for him to make sure that he was leaving down a legacy that would then be reflected upon and looked at in a particular light. So, yeah, I was surrounded by people that it really meant a lot to them to have the opportunity to be in that moment, in that time, in that place. So I hope that I did my best to fit in and match that energy.
You did, and when you mention Avery, I have to say that he's such an imposing, almost intimidating human being. He's such a powerful force of nature. You were a young man when you stepped onto the show, and we kind of watched a part of your youth growing up flash before us over those 7 years. It was actually a beautiful thing to watch. To watch anytime you have a young person who kind of grows up on a show over the course of the show, and that was 7 years. It's a great thing to see. But he clearly, Avery clearly loves you, and that spilled out into the performances and the vibe of the show. That familial energy of the father and the son is part of what informs Deep Space Nine and makes it the family drama that it is.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm just grateful that Avery was aware of all of these things and the meaning and impact of what it could mean going forward. I was a lot more naive and kind of wide-eyed walking into this very adult situation, but thankfully I was informed by people like Avery, people like Aaron Eisenberg, people like Armin Shimmerman, who understood the value of what we were doing and how it would translate way after we were done doing the work. So I'm grateful to have been surrounded by those people, grateful for the knowledge and the life lessons that Avery extended beyond the show, outside of the script, and just our own personal relationship. But and you've been such a part of it because it's not just about what we do on the sound stages. It's also about how it resonates with the fans, and then again how we can meet back up with the fans and have this community, as you described, this familial place where people are accepted and included. And that's one thing that comes up a lot in our conversations, is how so many people across the spectrum feel included. And that's one thing Star Trek does well, as good as anyone else. It embraces differences. It accepts outsiders. It doesn't have a fringe, and there's no judgment involved. Be free, be yourself, dress up if you want to dress up. And just really come here and be friendly with each other. And I think that's what one of the great magical things that Star Trek has been able to do, and that you've been a big contributor of all these years.
Thank you. It's really embedded in Star Trek's DNA, right down from Gene Roddenberry's prime principle of the show, IDIC, infinite diversity, infinite combinations. It's at the bedrock of Star Trek. And God, if only, society, the political world, the sociological world, if only our planet had been a little bit more evolved over these last 50 years, we could have maybe gotten a little bit closer to Gene's ideal instead of moving further away from it, which is kind of what it feels like a bit. It's been a difficult soul-searching time for the American conscience, for the global conscience. And so all the more reason why, yes, we have a lot of gratitude that inside of our Star Trek community, we all feel as welcome as we do.
Hey, so Adam, I know we're just about out of time here, but what's great about this for me is that one of my biggest questions that I had that I wanted to ask you for years, you've basically answered. And it's when I was going to these conventions and I'm watching you on stage and I'm thinking, how does this guy know everything about everything about everything? And I'm thinking, does he just prep ahead of time? Does he have people? And it's clear it's because this is something you were born to do. You actually are an enormous Star Trek fan. You do follow the series. You do appreciate it and the people, and you know all these things. So that's really awesome to know. That's kind of what we all suspect when we see you up on stage, moderating, but it's good to have that confirmed. And I do want to echo both yours and Sirach's sentiments that, that nugget of faith and hope and love and positivity that we have in Star Trek is also within the Star Trek conventions that you put on. We all go to the Star Trek convention, not just because we like Star Trek, but because it feels like home. It feels like our community. It feels like our tribe, as you put it. And so I just want to thank you from the fans' point of view. This is what we look forward to every year. It's like a family reunion without the awkwardness.
Yeah.
And it's what we look forward to every year. So thanks very much for that, Adam.
Pleasure. We're grateful for it. Really, we all have our callings, and it's been an honor for me to be some small part of that ability to bring everybody together in this way. It's been a beautiful thing. And by the way, just regarding me hosting, I consider myself a good host and a good moderator. But over the last few years, I have been working towards, really it's been me. I've been working towards bringing in a lot of exciting moderators and hosts. Right. And this year, you'll see more than ever before, a lot of really savvy, intelligent people who will make the hosting and interviewing and moderating experience, I think, even more interesting. I used to try and hog it all for myself, and I realize now that there are a lot of really talented, creative, intelligent people out there that will help to make our events, our segments, and the interviews and processes of the things that we do on stage, I think, more informed and more exciting. So I'm looking forward at rolling some of those new people out this year. I think you're going to be mighty impressed by some of our new hosts and moderators. There's some pretty amazing people. So awesome. We'll see. Without revealing too much, their names will start to appear on our website pretty soon. but just we've never had more creative and intelligent and fun people to come in and host the segments at our show. I'm looking forward to it very much.
It's funny. I thought you were going to say, I can't say who it is, but their names will start with the letters R and P.
No, I think the anticipation level is extremely high. People are really deprived from physical contact and just being in a space. So, I mean, and the shows, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much new material out there to cover. So I just think the anticipation level and the turnout is going to be pleasantly surprising for you. And that's what I pray and hope for.
Yeah, your lips to God's ears. We're all hoping. I can't predict the future, but I know we're all hungry for it. If we can do it in a safe way, we're going to do it. So,
yeah, great.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining us, Adam. We do really hope to see you again because there's so much more to talk about. You've been a legend for like 50 years.
We'll do another one of these. We can do another one of these before your event in October. And then we can do something in October, maybe with, if you want to get me mixed up with some other people, that would be fun. So if you think there's some other people that would be good to put us into a combined session with, I certainly would be game for it. And I'd enjoy it. So,
we love
the wheels are spinning already. I know. Thank you so much, Adam, for taking this time out, helping us out, and just letting people get to know who you are better. I think it's important because we know your event, but we really want to know you and the person behind the event. And so much information. I couldn't believe that. I'm a child. I started out as a child actor. I guess you started out as a child promoter. So
yeah, I mean, it's good though when we start as kids. We have a certain youthful enthusiasm and energy, and if we're lucky enough to parlay that and carry that over into a lifetime career, then we're the lucky ones, really.
Absolutely.
I definitely have no regrets for my career. It's been a great career. I've got to meet amazing people and be a part of something like this. So it's all been a blessing. But having said that, the part about revealing so much about myself is not too important to me. But the chance to interact with you guys and to talk about it and all the great experiences that we've had, that, of course, is a pleasure. I'm happy to do so.
And next year is going to be your 50th anniversary. So that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, we're planning quite a bit for that. It's going to be quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of changes coming. And but we're going to have a 50th anniversary coffee table book.
Looking forward to that.
First to hear that. Yeah, we're going to have a book about it. And there'll be some great celebrations and quite a bit of looking back. And hopefully, I still feel personally, I think my partner does too, like we've still got some years left in us.
Right.
So
you seem like it.
As long as the Lord will allow, I think we'll keep going. So
absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Adam. We appreciate everything you do. We hope to see you again real soon. And thank you. And stay safe out there, especially. Yeah. And everybody at home, thanks for joining us on the 7th rule. Always keep your ears open, right? So I almost forgot what I was going to say at the end there.